just play this game. Just buy it. I recommend it. It's fantastic. If I had a third hand for me to give 3 thumbs up instead of 2 thumbs up, I would. I'm not gonna bore you with like an introduction of The Legend of Heroes was invented in 1958 by John Falcom. No, like, no history lesson, no intro, none of that. I'm just gonna get to the point. Yes, it's a great game. No, it doesn't matter that it doesn't have like the nice 3D graphics from the Cold Steel games. Yeah, it looks a little bit old, but believe me, it's great. And this remastered version has a nice little bells and whistles that make the experience more enjoyable, like turbo mode and voice acting and higher resolution and all that stuff. I highly recommend that you get the game either on Nintendo Switch or on PC. I would say get it on PC more than on Switch, because on PC you have a modding community, and, you know, if you've played the versions of Trails in the Sky and all that, where you can kind of add all of those assets from the Evolution series on PlayStation Vita, which is like other remasters that never came out over here. Voice acting and other nice things that kind of turn these games into like a definitive edition of themselves by like modding it or waiting for these remasters. Believe me, just play it. Don't think about the fact that it's like an old like PSP game or anything. This is the best time for you to get into The Legend of Heroes, because it's basically like a fantasy RPG version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Every single game that you play is its own little self-contained thing, but they all kind of connect with one another in some way. And so it's really cool for you to start with either the Sky games or the Crossbell games or Cold Steel. It doesn't matter which one you start with, as long as you start with the first one and then just keep going from there, because you start to see all of these things kind of connect with one another. You kind of start to see everything connect with one another because, you know, the world building is so good. It's like One Piece levels of good, where everything just kind of comes together in a way that makes sense, that doesn't feel very forced. And also, you care about the world because you care about the characters. All of the characters are so supremely well written. I remember that I really hated Lloyd Bannings because the first time that I saw him was during the ending of Cold Steel 2. And at that time, I was just mad at Cold Steel 2 in general. That's a very divisive game. Some people hate it, some people love it. I love it, except for the ending. I think the ending just sucks. And Lloyd Bannings was in that ending, and I had no context for this guy. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Some random dude. Screw him. You know, I was mad at that point, so I just didn't want to know anything about Lloyd. But I waited and I waited and I waited for like an official release for Trails from Zero, and now finally is here. But there was something that came out before the official NIS release, and that was the Geofront translation. And that's the one that I ended up doing my full first blind playthrough of. I'm absolutely gonna play it again, probably on PC or on Switch when the NIS version comes out. There's already a bunch of reviews coming out for that version of the game. The actual official North American version of the game that comes out this year, all of it is very positive. Pretty much, even like the bad reviews, the low reviews are still pretty good, you know? You'd be really hard-pressed to find a review that says anything bad about this game. Because to me, Trails from Zero is about as great, as enchanting, and enthralling and engaging as my very first time that I fell in love with the Trails games, which was Trails in the Sky 1 on the PSP like years ago, right? And that one didn't have any voice acting or anything, and that game really grabbed me. And after Trails in the Sky 1, I was a fan forever. From there, I did Cold Steel 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have reviews of a lot of those games if you want to see them. And most recently, I did a full one, not 100% playthrough, but I beat it all the way to the end for Trails from Zero. I'm going to put a link of like the full finished playlist in the description if you guys want to see a little bit of it. But yeah, I've played through all of it through the Geofront translation, and I'm just about to start my journey with Trails to Azure, the sequel, the direct sequel to that game. The fact that I'm getting really excited just talking about this game and how amazing the characters are, right? There's some characters that come back. I mean, a lot of my context is like Sky 1 and then all of Cold Steel. So for me, I'm really happy to see characters like Randy, right? It's like, oh, this is Randy before Cold Steel. Oh, here's Lloyd, you know, after seeing him in the Cold Steel 2 ending. To me, it kind of felt like a prequel, right? Like I'm playing like a new prequel that explains a lot of the stuff in Cold Steel. Everything with Crossbell, you know, there's so many characters that just gush about Crossbell. There's so many people that like name drop Tio, right? In a lot of situations. references. The people talk about Randy a lot. People reference Lloyd. And so it's like, who are these people that everybody's just gushing for, right? In Cold Steel, there's a character named Yuna who comes from Crossbell, and she's super patriotic and super hardcore about Crossbell. It's like, what makes this place so goddamn special, right? And so here, this is the game where you can get those answers, finally, after years of this game never coming out in the West. It took a bunch of fans to translate the game, and then NIS took that translation and kind of changed it around a little bit. It seems like they removed all the cringy memes and references out of that translation, which I think is for the best. I was never a fan of, like, the bra moment or anything like that. I think these kinds of games can live without, you know, the fans kind of sticking in their own personal little references of like, hey, shout out to the Discord mods. It's like, no, none of that, you know? It's bad enough that big companies like Square Enix and NIS and Xseed and all of these dudes, they already ruined the translation in their own special little way. We don't need the fans doing that too, right? But, you know, the Geofront translation it is the best thing that we've ever gotten so far in terms of like a true translation of Trails from Zero and Azure, and I have both of them, right? And so with NIS, I'm really happy to see them kind of like refine it a little bit and make it a bit more professional, a bit more formal, I guess, and just put it out, you know? Even though the Trails series fans are a very hardcore, very dedicated kind of bunch, there's still a lot of casual people out there that don't want to, like, go to a Japanese website and buy a Japanese copy of the game on PC and then mod it and then add, like, the custom soundtrack and all of these things that just sound like a lot of work, right? So even if there are ways to play those games in English, nothing really beats, like, actually formally just having the game officially on, like, the Nintendo Switch eShop or Steam or whatever. And so, yeah, I know I'm talking a lot about stuff in the periphery of the game, and I haven't really talked about the game itself, but that should just tell you, right? Like, my excitement, my hype over a game that I've already just finished playing like a month ago, and I am more than willing to sit down and play through the whole goddamn thing again, you know, in an official capacity, in America, in English. That's something that you know, that's a testament to how amazing that game is. The last time I fell in love with a game so much was Trails in the Sky 1, right? And so here, with all of the improvements and the remasters and all that stuff, then yeah, now is the best time as any other time to play Trails from Zero. Everybody's saying great things about it. Don't get it on PS4, because on PS4, for some reason, it just doesn't have any of that remastery kind of additional stuff, right? Switch or PC. And I think in the long run, I would say get it on PC because modding and all that stuff. But it is a fairly old game. This was an old PSP game, so if you want to play it on Switch, it's a perfect game for Switch. You know, I'm sure it's going to run great on it. But about the game itself, the soundtrack is amazing. The characters are fantastic. There isn't even a moment where, like, oh, there's like a rough patch and you have to get to know them. No, like right out of the gate, everybody's really, really charming. It's kind of realistic in a way, you know? In other stuff like One Piece or in other RPGs, every single character has to have this big elaborate backstory and have to go through like a story arc and a boss battle before they finally join your team, right? Here, from the very beginning of the game, here are your 4 party members and you go. And you kind of, in the same way that you would like a normal job, right? You don't know the people you're working with, but as time goes on, they become your family by the end of it, right? And so here, Trails from Zero is literally just Cops the Fantasy RPG, right? It's just police officers in a city that's full of crime with people that don't care about police officers at all because they know that they won't do anything. And you have this little, like, scrappy little group of people that are like, no, we care. And so they're out there solving cases and stopping crime and all of that stuff. And so as you do all of that, you kind of get to know all of the different members of your little police gang right there. And you explore. It's just one city. The entire story is just one city and like a couple of places outside of the city. And it's so amazing how they can have so much packed into just one place, right? You would think that it'd be boring, right? It's not like other RPGs where like you're traveling all over the world. You have your ice level, your lava level, your desert. You have all of these different levels, right? But no, here you just have one place. And occasionally, like, a village a little bit outside of the city. And you would think that would get old really fast. It really doesn't, because every time you're going to a different part of the city, every time there's a different person with a different problem, with a different story arc that they got going on as NPCs. And if you want to follow along that story, they're out there, right? They're living their lives in the city. And you got to go and look for them and talk to them, and you can see how their lives advance, right? And if you've played Trails in the Sky, there's a bunch of references to that as well. It's just a fantastic game. It really is. I don't know. I feel like I'm moist critical just standing here in front of the camera gushing to you about this video game. But it really is amazing. And I think Falcom has a near almost flawless track record with, you know, the Legend of Heroes games and the Ys games. Pretty much everything that Falcom puts out is amazing, right? And they're not even like a AAA company. I would say they're like a AA company that has a fantastic track record with these RPGs. And in Japan, we have like Kuro no Kiseki 2 just came out. So, you know, this is just the beginning, right? There's so many more games that are still going to come out that are going to all connect with one another in some way. So now is the best time for you to get into it. Don't worry about the graphics. Don't worry about the fact that it looks old or that it's an old PSP game or anything. Just play it. If you like RPGs in any way, I highly recommend that you play it, because then, like, the gameplay mechanics are also really interesting. They're really customizable. They're really clever in how they make you, you know, switch around stuff. You know, the drops and how you make money. There's like a bank that you go to, the IBC. You know, I have bonded with this world so much. I love Lloyd Bannings now, Ellie, Randy, Tio. I don't know what I can do. I don't know how I can live my life without these guys in my life, right? And you explore the city so often. You're always going around everywhere. Do you like memorize? But like I memorized like all of the areas in this city that I know my own city, right? In real life, I don't know any directions to anywhere. I use my phone, my GPS to take me everywhere. But, like, if somebody tells me, oh, how do you get to the IBC? Oh, okay, well, first, you gotta go through East Street, and then go north, and then you'll find the Harbor District. And then you go past the Harbor District, past where, like, the newspaper is, and the Hayaway building is, which, you know, might be full of bullet holes or not, depending on the day. You go forward, and then there's the IBC. It's a big, giant building. Keep moving forward, and then right at the front desk, you're gonna see a nice old lady is going to tend to you. And if you sell your Sepith there, that's worth more money than selling Sepith in any other place, right? So if you want to get mad cash, you gotta go and trade your Sepith to the IBC, and then you can afford all of the best weapons and all the best armor and all of the orbans that you want, so that you can just turn any character into any character that you want, right? There are set roles for each character, right? Randy's kind of like the tanky powerhouse. But if you want him to be a healer, he can absolutely be a healer. You can just take all of your blue quartz, right? Which is like your magic spells, and you can just put it on his equipment. You can equip him with like water-based stuff, blue stuff, green stuff, so he can be really agile and a healer. And if you want like Tio to be the super hardcore strong one, then you give her all the fire stuff, all the ground stuff, high defense, high attack, you know, less movement, but she's a tank, right? So you can basically do whatever you want with these characters, plus the assist characters that come in, and like how the way that the story develops. It's just an awesome game, okay? Go buy it, go play it, show your support, and like that, you know, NIS and Falcom are gonna know, wow, people really care about these games, right? Don't let it be like Dragon Quest, where like because it's a turn-based RPG, suddenly bad, no, right? Anime, boo, no. Anime, yes. Go play this game. Okay, and if you don't trust me, go on YouTube, search up Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero Review. There's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be gushing about this game and loving it. Maybe not the PS4 version, but all the other versions, yes. And if push comes to shove, I mean, actually, no, I was going to say that you could do the Geofront translation, but no, they actually took it down because the official one exists, right? So this is the only way you can play it. You know, there's still fan translations out there for like the PSP version and stuff like that. But at this point, that's not really the way to play. You really got to play it with the remasters and all of the Kai stuff, the voice acting, the turbo mode. I think even Yuna from the Cold Steel games gets added into this game, because at this point into the timeline, she's like in the police academy, and you can kind of bump into her. So, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff here to look at. You know, it took me a long time for me to finish this game. It took me like 2 years, because I've just been like little by little in little tiny pieces just kind of going through this game, but I don't regret a single millisecond of me playing through that game. And I have a good reason to play it again, because there's like dialogue options and relationships and all this kind of stuff that you can complete by doing another playthrough of the game and just kind of doing things a little differently, right? It's very easy for you to miss stuff in this game, right? Like certain collectibles and quests and items and stuff. And so it's really fun for you to just blast through the story one time and then go back and just kind of do everything that you didn't do before, right? And there's a lot of, you know, plot twists and reveals and stuff where if you go all the way back to the start of the game and you kind of see the beginning parts of the story, now knowing what you know in your head, it kind of recontextualizes everything, right? And it's like, oh, here's where this was happening and I didn't even know, right? Like a bunch of stuff that kind of just flies over your head. But when you know the plot twist and you know all the information, oh, then it's like a big galaxy brain playthrough of Trails from Zero, and the game just becomes so much more enjoyable in a game that is already super duper charming with fantastic characters and great writing, where like the main story is like the last thing you're going to want to do because you're just going to want to talk to everybody and do all the side quests and help people. Even the NPCs, the random NPCs that are not main characters, are interesting characters in and of themselves because, you know, as you talk to everybody, you know, it feels weird when they're not there, right? Because they all have like little situations and little stories going on, right? Even like a politician that goes to a certain restaurant is like, I love coming here. Their breakfast is great. And you can go and actually buy the breakfast and eat it and know the recipe and like cook it yourself, right? Like there's so much going on. It's just packed. This is the closest thing that we will ever get to like a tried and true like One Piece RPG in terms of the world building and the characters and the story arcs and how everything connects and how incredibly well written everything is. There's a reason for why, you know, like everybody wants this game so badly to come out in English because it's just that good. So do me a favor and do yourself a favor. If you're mad at the AAA games industry right now, like me, right now, 2022 is the most shameful year for AAA games right now. They're so embarrassing and repetitive and like, you know, so stupid and bereft of any creativity. 2022 has been the year where all of the indie games and like the smaller AA, you know, games have really been pulling out all the stops and just putting the AAA stuff to shame right now. And Trails from Zero is definitely one of those games. You can watch my full playthrough down in the description. I have a playlist, or you can go to my website. I made a post on my website about it that also has the playlist on there. Go read the reviews. Pretty much all of them are positive. Even the more negative ones are still like 7 out of 10, right? Which is still like, yeah, still pretty good, you know? Has some flaws, but still pretty good. So if like the lowest, most negative review is still a pretty good, then yeah, you owe it to yourself, you know? Don't listen to people that say that turn-based combat is like old school or whatever. Just believe me, just play it. That's what I did. When I first, I didn't know anything about the Legend of Heroes like years ago, but then I saw all of these articles of people saying Trails in the Sky 1 and 2 is finally coming out on the PSP digitally, you know? And this, like, the Vita was out and the PS4 was out. It was a really strange time for a PSP game of all things to come out here in America. But they came out as PSP classics or whatever. And there were all of these articles of people going, play it, just play it, okay? It's great. You're gonna... Just play it. It was one of those where it's like, don't even make me say it again. Just play the game. And it's like, all right, you know, if it's that hype. And I played Trails in the Sky 1, and honestly, I never went back. It's probably one of my most favorite RPG franchises ever. As I said, like, it's the fantasy RPG version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Every game connects in some way, and then with the Cold Steel games, there's like this giant crossover where like they all go and like beat Thanos, or like the Thanos equivalent of this game, right? Big bad guy wants to destroy the world, and all of the characters from all of the games, they all get together to fight this dude, right? So Avengers Assemble. But if you like that kind of thing, if you're looking for something new, something interesting, something enchanting and good to play, then yes, go get it. It's a no-brainer. Maybe one day I'll make like a full-on like video essay on the Trails games and stuff. But right now I just wanted to make this video just to make sure that you freaking buy and play this game. It's fantastic. You're not gonna regret it. All right? And then buy Trails Tazure, you know, when that comes out. And if this is gonna be a moist critical style video, I guess I'll just say, oh well, that's about it. See ya. That's what I'm gonna say. Goodbye. See ya. Bye.